What is up, Steelers Nation? Thank you so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. I'm Noah Strackline, joined always by my man in the corner, producer Nick Belsky. Find us on youtube.com/All Steelers Talkers. Subscribe anywhere you get your podcast. The Pittsburgh Steelers are 5-2, and well, Nick, let's ride. They have a new quarterback in Russell Wilson, and well, there's plenty of discussion, plenty of conversation to be had about did they make the right call. There was a ton of skepticism coming into it, including much by me and some by you. Well, I feel Monday morning, a victory Monday, no better time to sit here and say sometimes you're wrong. This time I believe we were. The Pittsburgh Steelers defeat the New York Jets in week 7, 37-15, behind 264 passing yards and 2 touchdowns from their new starting quarterback, Russell Wilson, in a game that from start to finish just felt like the Steelers were going to be here and we were going to be talking like this on Monday morning. And even after 2, I guess, sloppy drives, you just felt immediately, oh, nope, there it is. That's back. That's what Mike Tomlin was looking for. And well, Russell Wilson took off from there. We'll dive into everything, Russ. We'll answer all your questions. We'll play all the reaction videos from the players after the game. And, well, you know, we'll ride. We'll ride this one out, as Steeler Nation will do from this day forward. Nick, it's a beautiful, beautiful victory Monday here in the Berg. I hope it's the same down south for you. How are you feeling today, my friend?
One word, relieved. And not about the fact that Mike Tomlin made the right decision and it worked out in his favor and the Steelers won by a large margin, but relieved that now I can shave without scrutiny from the comment section, because I told you one is not a trend on Friday. I shaved last week. They still won. So now I can shave freely without anybody worrying about whether or not I cursed the Steelers on Sunday.
I should have sent a screenshot, because me and you were texting during the game, but me and somebody else were texting during the game, because I told my wife that somebody made a bet on here that if Van Jefferson scores a touchdown, actually, I forget what the original bet was, but I changed it to if Van Jefferson scores a touchdown, I shave a mustache. And her response to Van Jefferson's touchdown was, my birthday is in a week. So while I am a man of my word, we're going to have to wait a little while, because I just can't do that to the kid on her 27th birthday. It's just not fair. Relief is a good word, you know, for you, at least. For me, I mean, I really thought it was 14 who caught that pass. It was 11. That being said, I'm thankful to be here, and I'm thankful that the Pittsburgh Steelers found a quarterback, and that all the conversation, all the questions, including many that we had, are answered. So I'll ask you, because I have a lot of thoughts, and I'll let you go first here. What was your reaction to last night and Russell Wilson taking over this team in a way that I don't think either of us saw coming?
No, genuine surprise, because I thought that he was better than a lot of people, because there was always people on Russ's side. There were people on Justin's side, and it felt like if you were on one side, you were dissing the other side. That two things can be true at the same time. Justin can be good and can be growing, and Russ can still be good. And they both were, and I mean, both have been true to form this year, but I don't think I saw Russ being as good as he was last night. Obviously, he had to warm up to it. Some of that was rust. I think probably most of that was rust in the first 4 drives, but even the first one, I mean, that drive stalls out because Calvin Austin drops a pass where Russell Wilson makes a really good play on 3rd down. So he definitely opened some eyes. He definitely proved some people wrong, including both of us. So I was happy to see it. And now, everything's coming up Mike Tomlin this week, and he made the right call. Russell Wilson made him right. And honestly, that's good for all parties involved.
I agree. This is a day where there will be a lot of people, and I sat next to Mark Caboli. So, you know, I got it all night long. This is not new to me this morning, and people in my DMs telling me you wanted Justin Fields is not new. And unlike some people, because there are people I was on Twitter all night last night. I know you saw some too, who quickly, immediately changed from Mike Tomlin is the worst coach of all time, I can't believe he's making this decision, to Russell Wilson, QB1, savior. Can't believe that we waited this long. This is phenomenal. This is the best move the Pittsburgh Steelers could have possibly ever made. And I will sit here and acknowledge that, yeah, I thought Justin Fields was the easy answer moving forward. I thought Justin Fields was the guy. I thought Justin Fields was as good as you were going to get because you had a bad offensive line, almost no running game outside of the last 2 weeks. And, well, Van Jefferson was your wide receiver too. There was nothing here to grab onto for a 35-year-old quarterback who might be good, but how good can you be? How significantly better can you be compared to Justin Fields? And that was the question. It wasn't, is Russell Wilson good? It was, is he that much better than Justin Fields that he makes the impact that you would get from making a quarterback change with a winning record coming off a 32-point performance? And I'll acknowledge two things here. One, if you go back and look at Arthur Smith's record during his time as the Tennessee offensive coordinator, and you're the one that told me this, it goes like 15 points, 0 points, 7 points, blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden it's like 47, 40, 35, 28, 40, and it just goes off. And maybe, just maybe, we're here. Maybe we are in the point of the Arthur Smith offense where it is ready to go and he has figured this thing out and we are rolling. And you have to acknowledge that in the process. You also have to acknowledge that there should be a lot of praise for Mike Tomlin this morning because he took a risk and that risk paid off. And sometimes risks do not pay off in the NFL, but it's all about taking risks. It's all about acknowledging that you could have a bigger factor here that you need to take a shot on. And to be honest, there are a lot of times where we come on this show and say Mike Tomlin lives in his fears. This is one of those times where he did not live in his fears and it came back and it paid off for him. This is a prime example of we do not live in our fears, and you got to give Mike T credit for that one because he walked away the winner for sure. And then number 3, I didn't think Russell Wilson was bad. There was no part of me that ever sat here and said Russell Wilson is not a good player in the NFL. He is not a good quarterback, and he is washed. He's done. And there are some that said that. But I did not see this coming. I did not see Russell Wilson becoming the best debut quarterback the Pittsburgh Steelers have ever had in franchise history, absolutely annihilating the New York Jets and getting everybody involved. Everybody involved. Najee Harris rushes for 102 yards, which you could say whatever you want. That is credit to the passing game just as much as it is the offensive line. George Pickens, 111 yards and a touchdown. Darnell Washington, 4 receptions for 36 yards. Van Jefferson scores a touchdown. Jaylen Warren's got 15 yards. Pat Fryermuth's got 51 yards. And Calvin Austin's got 36 and would have had more if he didn't drop a pass. I mean, that's a stat line. That's as good as you could ask for. And that's actually exactly what the Pittsburgh Steelers were looking for. Let George Pickens cook. Let everybody else around him be the key contributors that they can be. Have a great tight end and a dominant running game. And we'll score in the red zone because the Pittsburgh Steelers, they scored in the red zone and it seemed almost effortless. So credit where credit is due. Pittsburgh Steelers Nation, let's ride. Russell Wilson is your starting quarterback. And you have more to say. Everybody has more to say, but there are reactions after the game that give you the sense of this guy has this team juiced up because Justin Fields is in here and it seems like, yeah, people are fired up. People are happy. People are excited to be winning, but this is almost the same vibe as last year with, okay, the Steelers are 4-2. They're just excited to be winning. After this one, I mean, guys that do not smile, guys that are not good in press conferences, George Pickens, Najee Harris, and they'll both tell you that they are not good in press conferences. All smiles in this one. We'll run through all 3 of them: Mike Tomlin, George Pickens, Najee Harris. This is all of their reactions to Russell Wilson last night.
You know, I thought he was excellent. I thought he got better as the game went on, man. But I'm not surprised by that, man. It's been a while since he's played some ball, but I thought he settled in, knocked the rust off, man, and distributed the ball around and played well.
Like, is part of that wanting to see how guys respond to him, how the team plays with Russ under center?
Yes.
Mike, you've talked about learning about your players when adversity hits. What did you learn about Russell Wilson tonight?
It was my first time in the stadium with him, and so, I learned a lot about him, to be quite honest with you, but not in reference to the conversation that you're talking about. It was just my first time in the stadium with him, and so in-game demeanor, communication skills, listening skills, it was a good experience for me.
Yeah, like I said, like previous in the week, a guy going to back-to-back Super Bowls, he knows when guys are blitzing. His cadence is a little more dominant with guys jumping off sides, you know what I mean? But like I said, on third down and second down, they play a lot of man-on-man. We took opportunities.
Shoot, Russ is Russ, man. He gonna do that. He's always calm, cool, collected. Ever since he got there in Pittsburgh, I talk to Russ almost every day. Every day, almost. So, man, I know Russ. I know that when things was shaky in the first half or first quarter, whatever, first couple of drives, I knew that he was still gonna be calm, collected, and just pull it all together. Because that's just the leader he is. He's been around 12 years, 13 years. 13 years. I already knew him because of Sean, so it's not like, like I'm just playing with him now. But to see that is it's nothing surprising, really.
Pittsburgh was juiced up last night. I'll tell you this. It was Russell Wilson showed up to the podium in his pads, which I think to the outside is just like, oh, okay, cool. Like Russ didn't have time to change. He was doing stuff. It was after the game. He had interviews, so on and so forth. No, Russell Wilson showed up to the podium in pads because he dapped up every single member of the Pittsburgh Steelers organization after that game. Every single one. I'm talking equipment guys, training staff. At one point, he left the locker room in his pads and just started walking down the hall, dapping people up, hugging them, saying thank you. I'm like, dude, that's a camera guy. He doesn't have anything to do with this game. That's who Russell Wilson is. That's who the Pittsburgh Steelers have as a quarterback right now. And there's the side of Justin Fields that I do want to talk about at some point, because I think this is the best of both worlds for the Pittsburgh Steelers. But you have to put a hard explanation point on the fact that the Steelers have a quarterback and that this quarterback looks like the best quarterback they've had since Ben Roethlisberger, which is, that's what they were searching for, is the guy to replace Ben Roethlisberger. And even if it's just for a year, even if it's for, what would that be, 10 games, doesn't matter. That's what he's here to do, and the Pittsburgh Steelers got to feel good about it. I'll ask you this question before I dive into the future, what it means for Justin Fields, and so on and so forth. Has the ceiling changed for you at all for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and what does this season look like under Russell Wilson?
I would say watching that performance last night makes me feel like the ceiling's changed, because I didn't know the Steelers offense, who, let's not get it twisted, played a pretty good Jets defense. We all understand that they were injured and they had their holes, but that's the same exact thing that happened with the Cowboys. That's the same exact thing that happened with the Colts. They had their holes. The Steelers offense couldn't take advantage. They took advantage last night, despite the fact that even that offensive or defensive front was still pretty strong, and the Steelers offensive line managed the game. So I feel like the ceiling has risen, because I didn't think that the Steelers offense would look that good, especially the way they looked in the second half. So I would say, and again, it might be cart before the horse. It might be jumping out and overreacting. And I know that's supposed to be on Tuesdays, but it was a Sunday night game, so things are still fresh. Yes. I feel like that took them from, hey, they're a team that could be in the playoffs, that could get a win, to, hey, they're a team that is going to be very difficult to take out of the playoffs if the offense is working like they did last night. And let's not forget, this is the base. That was game one. Yes. Now, there's going to be give and take. People are going to have more tape, so they're going to be able to take things away. But I think the Steelers will also be able to build off of this. So I think that this has risen their ceiling, I think, pretty substantially going forward.
I agree. And you could look at the offense and say that is the reason that their ceiling got better. But I'll look at it as a whole and say, yesterday, the defense had lapses. And they were bad lapses. Breece Hall ran all over these guys a couple of times, and it was a bit embarrassing. But there was never a moment of this is over. And I believe that's because on both sides of the football, there was never any panic. And maybe that's Russ. Maybe that's all Russell Wilson. Maybe that's Russ and Mike Tomlin being the duo that they are. Who knows what it is? Maybe it's just having a capable quarterback that you feel, hey, at any moment, like, he's going to be fine. He could take this game over if we need him to. But you never saw panic in this team, and you saw moments where panic should have started. You saw the slow start. You saw the the Jets get in the end zone on a really sloppy run that the defense was just nowhere to be found. You saw guys make mistakes, and you constantly looked at it and said, the Steelers bounced back every single time. And that's what a team that wins in the postseason does. They do not dominate from start to finish. Patrick Mahomes and company do not come out of the gates and put up 75 points on every team that they play, especially when they get in the playoffs. What they do is they bounce back from the struggle. They bounce back from the bad series. They bounce back from the bad first half. That's what they do. And the Steelers were able to do that a number of times yesterday, where it was a bad defensive series, where it was a bad offensive series. And next thing you know, okay, they're back. Things are good again. They have a rhythm once again. They found that. They made the adjustments. They stayed calm. It was the first time since Ben Roethlisberger where you truly thought last series does not exist anymore. And that is something that the Steelers have not been able to overcome, even with Justin Fields, is that the last series always seemed to be like oh man, dude, last series wasn't good. What's going to come next? This one, it's like, okay, who cares about the last series? This is a new series. Russell Wilson and company just took the field once again. And again, both sides of the football. You saw it on the defensive side, you saw it on the offensive side, and it kind of feels like that is just two confident groups feeding off of each other, and that's what you get is a great product. Now, there are cautions to be made. This is the New York Jets, and they are 2-6, and they are 2-5, excuse me, and they are not looking good. Like, this Jets team is burning fast. Devontae Adams clearly made the wrong choice. He should be in Pittsburgh. Instead, he's in New York. He'll regret that one by the end of the season. But this is not a good Jets team. And Aaron Rodgers is not a good quarterback right now. And there are issues that the Steelers should have been able to overcome. But this is a game where you score 37 points confidently. This is not Vegas 32 points. This is a totally different 37 points. And you feel that's what the game should be. This game should have ended 37-15 because that's what you do against a bad Jets team with a bad quarterback and a struggling defense, especially when guys like Sauce Gardner are missing time and guys are leaving mid-game and so on and so forth. That's what you expect from a good quality football team with a good quality offense. That's what the Steelers have. So a sign of caution, but at the same time, you take it with it was a bad Jets team, but they played like it was a bad Jets team, and that's what you're looking for. Now, let me turn attention. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to simply say, to add on to that, you didn't play down to your opponent. How many times have we said that about Mike Tomlin teams? Well, they played down to their opponent. Well, they looked great against a really good team, but then they go up against a bad opponent and they end up winning by one, winning at the end of the game. They were able to go out there and they were able to show that the records were what they were supposed to be coming into this one. So they didn't play down to the opponent, which is a good sign.
Exactly. So let's finish up the Russ conversation before we dive into questions here, because there are a lot of them and some real good ones. You look at Justin Fields now, and you say Russell Wilson called him a franchise quarterback after the game. The Steelers offense clearly made the right decision here. Russell Wilson is the starting quarterback. You stick with the starting quarterback. He is your guy, his leash. Let me ask this. I said going into the game last night, my walkover was about how Russell Wilson set his leash last night. That's what this game was about. It wasn't about, can he lose it in 1 week? It wasn't about, are the Steelers going to be good? It was, everybody asked, what is Russell Wilson's leash? And last night he set that leash. He had an opportunity to say it's short, it's long, it is non-existent. And in my eyes, it is non-existent. Unless the Steelers find themselves in an absolute desperation game where Russell Wilson is just not getting the job done and hasn't gotten the job done in weeks, and they need a spark to get into the postseason. This is Russell Wilson's job. I don't think there's any question to be asked. I don't think Mike Tomlin is going to come to the podium on Tuesday and exactly say that, but I do think that this is the end of the conversation. Like, there will not be any quarterback discussion to be had this week. It is Russell Wilson.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, he kind of closed the door there. And the one thing that is going to be interesting going forward is, how do the Steelers play this? How have the Steelers been playing this behind closed doors? Conversations that unfortunately George Pickens isn't privy to, so we might never know the answers to them. I had to throw that last one out there. But no, at the end of the day, this is Russ's job now. Yeah. And it's Russ's job until he gives it up. And it's going to take a lot for him to give it up, because he is, as we talked about, he gets grace automatically because of the position he was put in coming into the season.
Yes.
He is just blown the door wide open as far as how much grace he gets before that leash even starts to pulling on him again. So
Yes.
I do think that it is his job until further notice.
Yes, I agree. I don't think the leash even exists right now. That doesn't mean that a leash cannot present itself, because this is the NFL. Things are constantly changing. It is a week-by-week adjustment. But right now, where we stand heading into week 8 against the New York Giants, there is no leash. This is Russell Wilson's job. So let's talk Justin Fields real fast. This is potentially the best case scenario for the Pittsburgh Steelers, because Justin Fields handled this perfectly all week long. He was definitely down on himself, but I think he had the support of everybody. And there was no question at the end of this. There was no question at the end of Sunday Night Football about whether or not the Steelers made the right decision so that Justin could sit around and go, man, like, you didn't trust me over that guy. That's who I got benched for. Really? That's what we're doing here. At the end of Sunday Night Football, it was very clear that the Pittsburgh Steelers had their quarterback and that it was Russell Wilson, and that Russell Wilson was the right move, and that he's a veteran and he's a guy who's doing this, and he's here to teach the entire offense and mold it together into what it should be. At the same time, if Justin does this correctly, and I hope he does, and he has the character to, he takes this and says, how do I learn everything I possibly can from Russ over the next 10 games? How do I take the rest of this season and become the Steelers' next franchise quarterback? Because I'm learning from the guy who's here to replace the franchise quarterback and who is a franchise quarterback and has been a franchise quarterback in the NFL. How do I learn from that guy over the next 10 weeks? If Justin does that correctly, the future is bright for Justin Fields. And I think the Steelers see that. I don't think the Steelers look at this and say, Russ is here for the next 5 years. He might be here for the next 2. And if he is, that changes the conversation with Justin. But maybe he wins a Super Bowl and sails off into the sunset at the end of all this. And that's the end of it. And then you had 10 weeks to develop Justin Fields behind the guy who just did that for you, who just took you where you wanted to be, who just proved to you what a great quarterback can do to an organization, especially when you are this deep into the rebuild stage. That's what Russell Wilson could do. And if Justin Fields does this correctly and the Steelers do this correctly, which I trust the Steelers side of things just because I think Arthur Smith really sees the value in Justin Fields. And if Justin could see the value in Russ and learning from Russ, this is a scenario that could work out very, very long-term for the Steelers, where they have their guy now and their guy later. And I was worried about that coming into this game, but watching Russ clearly put a period on any conversation that is to be had about the quarterback competition, it just feels like Justin now has to refocus himself. And if he does it correctly, it works out long-term.
I mean, yeah, I agree with you, but I honestly think that everything that we have seen and heard from Justin Fields, even, I mean, you look at that moon ball on the sideline, the first one to George Pickens, where he makes the phenomenal one-handed catch. Who was the person standing right up on the sideline signaling first down? It's Justin Fields. He was engaged all night long last night. He said all the right things, and not just the PR speech that people are saying, oh, well, you should say this. He went out there and said, listen, I had not played enough. If I did, this wouldn't be a question. I mean, Coach Tomlin said it right. Good, not great. And that's what we're striving for, is to be great. I think he has said everything right. I think that he sees the forest through the trees and knows, hey, Russell Wilson went out there, he did his thing, and this is a potentially fruitful situation for me where I can get my game to increase tenfold, as it already has since he joined the Steelers, and I get to learn behind a future Hall of Famer. So I think that he said everything right. You mentioned that you trust the Steelers. I trust Justin Fields based on his character and what he's shown me over the past, what has been 8 months since he was traded to Pittsburgh. Yeah, probably less than that because it was around St. Patty's Day. But I trust, based on what I've seen and heard from him, that he's going to take this the correct way. And I think if he's afforded the opportunity moving forward, I think this is a guy that could potentially be that Steelers quarterback for a decade plus. But right now, again, like you mentioned, it is Russ's job, and this is a perfect situation for that. You know, I won't say Patrick Mahomes situation because Mahomes was a rookie when he sat. Maybe a Jordan Love situation, which you've been comparing it to for a long time.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And I look at Justin's a guy that people should be excited about. Justin should have no critics. Nobody should be sitting around talking negatively about Justin Fields, where nobody, not one person should be doing it, because just like you said, Justin is so engaged. He wants to be a part of this team. He wants to win. He wants the Steelers to win. He's been here for 4 months, and the dude is like, team first, man. Team first. I bleed black and gold. Guy barely knows what "here we go" means. He probably doesn't even know the name of a terrible towel yet. He's still learning these things. Somebody probably says "jag" off to him, and he's like, I don't know.
What about Jacksonville?
Yeah, like, what does that even mean? So he is still very much so new to this city and new to this team.
Yeah.
And for him to embrace that, exactly. He should have no critics. This could turn out very well for the Pittsburgh Steelers. All right. There are a lot of questions. There are some good questions. I'm very excited for these questions. We'll end the show as we do every single day. We'll answer as many of your questions as we possibly can before we head out of here. Nick, I will toss it to you. What do we got?
Appreciate the listeners, but before we get into questions, I got one more thing. How have we gone this long and not given a shout out to Beanie Bishop for what he did for the Steelers last night?
I totally I'm exhausted. Okay. I can't see it in my eyes.
Listen,
I got new quarterback, plenty of conversation, night game. You go to bed clearly after 2:00. That alarm goes off at 6 a.m., whether you want it to or not, doesn't matter. It's you're rolling. You're rolling this morning. You're just getting through it. This is like cup of coffee 4. It's the big mug too. It's the, this bad boy's thick. Yeah. Yeah. And we're moving through. Shout outs where shout outs are due here. Okay. On Thursday, we did What's More Likely. I disrespected Beanie Bishop more than once, and I disrespected Van Jefferson probably 70 times. No less than 70 times. Beanie Bishop, shout out, my friend. Shout out to Beanie Bishop. Not 1, but 2. And you could say the second one, whatever, probably, but he still got a hand up there, and Garrett Wilson wasn't able to see the ball, and it smacked off his face instead of landing in his hands. And that one's on Beanie Bishop to come up with that. And then the one-handed interception was phenomenal. You could say, oh, that shouldn't. No. Phenomenal interception by Beanie Bishop. Shout out Beanie Bishop, officially a supporter of Beanie. This is exactly, I have been a critic of Beanie Bishop, but I have made one stance very strong this entire time. And that is, there are very clear reasons why you do not get rid of Beanie Bishop, even if he is too young to be on the field. And that is because this kid's got potential, and he's got a ton of it, and he showed a lot of it last night. And to get 2 of them off Aaron Rodgers, whether Aaron Rodgers is old Aaron Rodgers or not, is a great way to start your NFL career. And then Van Jefferson not only caught a touchdown, but was the most wide open person in the NFL for that touchdown. So shout out to Van Jefferson. He will see a mustache at some point, and my wife will be so disappointed, but it will happen. So shout out both of those guys. I mean, that you shut me down, and I am a man of, I will take my L's when they come, and I took 2 big ones, and you got to hope that Beanie and Van do not go on TikTok and see our reels of me trashing them for weeks, because they probably have something to say.
Yeah. 2 things. 1, that tip interception, in the wise words of the great Booger McFarland, tips and overthrows, defense, we got to get those. And he got it and took it down to the 1-yard line. And number 2, I will say that first interception was the play of the game in my mind. There were a lot of good plays made. Najee Harris was great. Russell Wilson made a couple moonball throws. George Pickens is I
was going to say over the George Pickens
because of the importance of it. It is 15-3. The Jets are driving down the field. They have all the momentum. They could score right before half and then take the ball to start the second half. It could have been a 3-score game by the time Russell Wilson got back on the field. Beanie picks that off, and from there, it's over. Steelers dominated every single possession after that. I understand the defense gave up some yards, but blocked field goals, blocked everything, and Lifted One said you got to shout out the guy Danny Smith as well. The Steelers dominated immediately after that Beanie Bishop interception. So he turned the tide of that game. And yeah, he's been bad at times, but he's also made some really good plays at times as well. So yesterday was a great night for the undrafted rookie cornerback. Wanted to make sure we shouted him out.
100%. Shout out Danny Smith, dude. I saw people on Twitter and like national people being like, the Steelers love Danny Smith. I'm like, Danny Smith deserves a statue in the city of Pittsburgh when he's done here. There's no man more beloved than Danny Smith in the Steelers locker room, hands down. And I'm talking every You talk to the cafeteria workers, Danny Smith is their choice. Favorite person in Pittsburgh, in the Steelers organization. So shout out Danny Smith. Shout out Beanie Bishop. Shout out Van Jefferson. Look, man, I'll take the L on this and I'll feel good about it. So I'm feeling good about that loss. It's a good one to take.
I've put this on the back burner long enough. I apologize to the chat, but let's get into all of these comments and questions. A lot of comments as well. Let's start with Marlon Lewis, who did say on Friday, what about 250 and 2 touchdowns for Russell Wilson? In which he had 3. He ran it into a little bit of Justin Fields action getting in from the 1-yard line.
He did. And possibly could have had another if he broke a tackle there, because early in that game with that 1-yard rush, the first one, that is all green in front of him if he breaks that one tackle. And you're thinking, man, dude, Russ may not be mobile, but he's one broken tackle away from being. And yeah, shout out to Marlon. There were a couple of people that all weekend long were hitting me with the Russ is going to throw for 2. Even my buddies, I had a buddy in a group chat 10 minutes before the game go, yo, we feeling Russ over 225? And I said, nah, no chance. That's on me. I thought the rust was going to be stronger. I thought this was going to be more of a hiccup. I thought the Jets defense was going to show up. They did not. So shout out to Marlon. Shout out to everybody else that definitely got it right while I got it wrong.
Let's go over to Rex 7, who says Super Bowl champ, 9-time Pro Bowler, and he was slept on. That's crazy.
It is crazy. It is crazy. And let's make some things clear. Like there were very drastic people sleeping on Russell. Like people saying that Mike Tomlin should be fired for this, that this is the worst decision of all time, that Russell Wilson is washed, blah, blah. There were some really harsh critics. I'm very grateful that in this stance, and I get harsh sometimes. I definitely get a little bit dramatic from time to time. Very thankful that we took the much lesser approach of this could work out well, it could not work out well. I think Justin was the right move, but we'll see what happens, because Russell Wilson quickly showed everybody he is a Super Bowl champion, 9-time Pro Bowler, and there is a reason that there is a Hall of Fame discussion, and if he doesn't go to Denver, there is no conversation of a Hall of Fame discussion. This is Russell Wilson, future Hall of Famer, and I think he's quickly getting back to that.
And Rex 7 had another comment here. Says, just want to say I avoided watching all Steelers media once it was announced Russ started because I didn't want to hear the slander. Now I'm just here for the respect. So Rex 7 must be really loving this episode.
Hey, dude, shout out to Russell Wilson, man. Shout out to Russell Wilson. I'm excited for Russ. He's a genuine dude. There are a lot of people that say Russell Wilson's a weirdo and the high stepping on the knees. And I mean, every time I turn on the Pat McAfee show, they're like talking real weird about Russell Wilson. I'll say this. Russ is unique in all stances, but he is as genuine of a human being as I have met in my journey in the NFL. So shout out to Russell Wilson. Well-deserved. Excited that he is here this morning.
Let's jump down to Potato Salad, who's back in the comment section. Says, have I been seeing a new trend of salad names on this channel? I was crashing out in the first quarter last night, but we looked good, and I appreciate y'all. Does that mean 7?
It doesn't mean 7. Would you put a Super Bowl bet on the Steelers?
No.
What would they need to do for you to put a Super Bowl bet on the Steelers?
Let me see it against a team other than the New York Jets. No, the New York Giants is not that team. The
Washington Commanders?
Gets me there a little bit more, especially if it's back-to-back performances like that, and especially if Jaden Daniels is healthy and back in that week and they still do the same thing.
Okay. We'll revisit this in week 10 against the Commanders.
Let's go over to Aaron, who says, thoughts on AB and Le'Veon Bell being at the game with Donald Trump?
Yeah, I don't really care. I hope they enjoyed it. I'm the least political human being you'll ever find. I just, I'm chilling, man. I like my cats and my football. So I did hope they have a good time, though. I hope everybody has a great time. And how did we not address the woman running on the field?
Yeah. I mean,
you want to talk about, first off, okay, boring. We'll address it in this. Boring. If you're going to run on the field, do something cool, man. Even the guy that got tackled by James Harrison, lame, but at least he got smoked by James. Yeah, like at least he got smoked by James Harrison. People will forget. They already forgot it. We forgot it. It's 12 hours ago. We don't remember that it even happened. I mean, just a lame way to go out there. That is if you're going to spend a night in jail and get charges, do something crazy, man. Run on the field. and do something nuts. Kiss Minka Fitzpatrick or something. Don't be lame. It was boring. Shout out. I mean, I hope everybody had a great time, but the fan thing, it could have been way cooler.
Let's go over to Steven, who says, this is what Coach T meant by we are good, not great. If this continues, the entire AFC goes through Pittsburgh. Who are the Chiefs?
Whoa.
That's bold. That's
the
bold.
Chiefs are undefeated, my friend. That's who the Chiefs are. The Chiefs are 5-0, coming off a win over the San Francisco 49ers, where Patrick Mahomes looked like doo-doo for 3/4 of a football game and then decided he was going to truck somebody to make sure that there is some explanation point on this like 21-15 victory for the Kansas City. It's a bold prediction, my friend. There's a bold prediction. Don't think I stand by it right now. Don't think I would make it. Bold. But I mean, they look better. This is what Mike Tomlin was talking about when he said good, not great. We are certainly experiencing more great than we were in past weeks.
Let's go over to Cody Silva, who's asking the hard questions. Do we still need a new wide receiver, or have we not seen what the wide receivers have to offer now that there's a quarterback switch?
You still need a wide receiver. I mean, the premise is there. Make George Pickens your guy and go through everybody else. Like, if that's the way that they want to do this, you can support it more after games where George Pickens has 111 yards and Pat Freiermuth has 50 and guys like Darnell Washington are involved and that kind of stuff. And if Calvin Austin doesn't drop the pass early, he's got over 50 yards. You could support it. You could find ways to support it. But just think about what last night is. If you have another guy that is a higher quality than the rest of the group outside of George Pickens, like, how much better can this be? Can it be that much better? Who knows? I think it's a risk that you maybe screw up the momentum, a risk worth taking in my eyes, because why not make it better? Like, why not just add somebody? That being said, I think you could make it less of a urgency and say guys like Mike Williams probably don't fit the bill. Maybe we don't need to give up a ton unless, I saw a mock trade where they give up a 7th round pick. If that's the case, who cares? Go get Mike Williams. But it might lower the sense of urgency for these middle tier guys that have been named to the Steelers, that people are talking, oh, well, if you just give up a 5th round pick, maybe you don't do that anymore.
Speaking of that, Jay Chapp wants to know who is the best available in your eyes when it comes to receivers.
I saw Garrett Wilson's name floated out there by Adam Schefter yesterday. That teams are calling the Jets about Garrett Wilson. And you got to think the Pittsburgh Steelers are one of those teams, right? You got to think that the Steelers are making phone calls.
Is water wet?
Is water wet? Cooper Kupp. Teams are calling the Los Angeles Rams about Cooper Kupp. I'll say Cooper Kupp's expensive, 31 years old, and has been banged up the last couple of years. It definitely a risk. Garrett Wilson would be nuts. Absolutely nuts. Because I think him and Aaron Rodgers do not like each other. I don't think Aaron wants anything to do with that Jets offense as a whole. I think Aaron Rodgers is done. Like, in my eyes, I look at Aaron Rodgers and say he does not want to play football anymore. He understands that he made a mistake coming back, and he just wanted to finish on a higher note than an Achilles tear 4 plays into the season. But I feel like the Jets might be looking at this and saying, screw it, let's just clean house and start over again. Why not get rid of Garrett Wilson? So I would toss his name in there at the top of the list for sure.
This is how you know we have active listeners, not just people that turn us on the background. There's people that are active. Jeff Cole, trying to keep you honest here, says, is it mustache time? I know you addressed it, but we got people jumping in late here that are going to want to know what's going on with the mustache.
I appreciate everybody keeping me in check here. I appreciate everybody. Like, I'll say it again for those who missed it earlier. The wife was aware of the bet. My wife hates the mustache. She won't kiss me with the mustache. She won't even, she gets grossed out looking at me. Like, she's like, if she wakes up in the middle, she might go, what is that? That's your mustache. Yeah. She's not a fan. That being said, I am a man of my word. Her birthday is Saturday. Sunday morning, I might have a mustache. Now, I'm not going to just shave the mustache. I'm getting this done. Okay. We're going to the barber. We're getting a nice stash getting going. So it might be a little later than Sunday, but we'll rock it. We'll make sure it's here. I'm a man of my word.
A little Monday night mustache for the Giants game wouldn't be a bad thing.
And maybe there's a possibility there.
Let's jump over to the Fields is for the Pickens, who says, is it time to start the Beanie Sutton conversation?
No.
And if Wilson hangs 30 on the Giants, I'm changing my name. LOL.
if Wilson, that's a good one. I like you. I'm gonna hold you to that one, like everybody's holding the mustache to me. The Beanie Sutton conversation is not yet to be had. It is much so like the Justin Fields, Russell Wilson conversation, where one benefits the other. Cam Sutton is a proven veteran in this league. He is very good at playing slot corner. He's a guy that you're going to be able to rely on. Beanie Bishop is an undrafted free agent that has shown potential, and that is the biggest thing here. That's the reason that you never benched him. That's the reason that you would never consider cutting him throughout all of his struggles, as he shows potential. This is exactly what he now gets an opportunity when Sutton comes back to be the number 2, to be deeper on this depth chart, and to learn while filling a lesser role, developing, playing more special teams, and then hopefully branching out in a year. But no, it's much so like the Russell Wilson, Justin Fields conversation of good, not great. And that's what you're going to get out of Cam Sutton when he comes back, as an opportunity to have a proven vet in there while your younger guy develops behind him.
Let's go over to Steven, who says, what was Adams thinking when he was sitting on the bench last night?
Man, dude, Omar called me 2 days ago. What am I doing here, pal? That's what he's thinking. Is Aaron did not tell me that he was washed when he was trying to get me on the golf course with him to come to New York. That's not what was happening. So I don't know what he was thinking, but I'll tell you this, definitely was on the wrong side of that team last night. Wrong sideline in Sunday Night Football for sure.
Let's go over to Marlon, who says, if the Steelers win the Super Bowl, I will get a cat.
Whew. Almost died there. Definitely almost died there. If the Steelers that's the best comment we've ever had. That's shout out. I'm holding you to that. The Marlins here every day. I'm holding you to that. You Steelers win a Super. I'll buy you the cat, my friend. I'll get you the cat.
Let's go over to Aaron, who says, did you guys hear Russ's intro?
Yeah. I mean, I'm in the box. I have it. I actually shared it on my Twitter. His intro, it wasn't loud. But to be honest with you, anybody outside of TJ Watt is really not loud. Like Ben Roethlisberger was loud. Especially towards the end of his career, he was super loud. But the only one that gets like a crazy, crazy reaction outside of Muth, but it's really hard to miss the Muth. Like, it's really hard to miss that. TJ Watt's the only guy that he comes out there, they announce, and the whole place lights up. So I would say it was a normal intro. I'm telling you, I still stand by Mike Tomlin doing some rain dances last week to make sure that it rained against Dallas.
Let's go over to Rec 7, then we'll get into the other comments as well. Now that we know where we are ROS, do we think Justin played well enough to get a contract next year, or do we get Jalen Milroe? I like the projections all say.
Jalen Milroe, in my eyes, will be gone well before the Pittsburgh Steelers are picking. I would imagine mock drafts still have the Pittsburgh Steelers picking like 18th to 20th. And with Russell Wilson, I would imagine that's 22 to 26, somewhere in that realm. I don't think Jalen Milroe will be there. I would look at it like this. We still have to see what Russell Wilson has in the tank at the end of the season. I believe Justin Fields played well enough for a next contract. I also believe that there's a possibility Russell Wilson comes back at the end of the season and is here for another year or two in Pittsburgh. I could see both scenarios playing out. I think it's too early right now to know where we stand there. I don't think we'll even know before the end of the season. If Russ plays well and the Steelers win a playoff game or two, I have a hard time believing he's not coming back. Why would you not? Why would you not come back to a situation where the team wants you, you want to be here, and you're winning? It just makes too much sense, especially with nobody's leaving, like nobody, you're going to lose Dan Moore and James Daniels, who aren't here anyways, and Najee Harris and your running backs, which you can, I mean, that's a big loss, but you can replace a running back easier than you can replace most positions. It's pretty much the same team a year from now. I would say there's a chance Russ comes back. There's also a chance Justin comes back. I just think it's too early right now to know where that will go.
Let's go over to Angelo, who says, morning, gents. Love the show. Do you think Russ under center Van and Austin become greater threats downfield?
I would like to see it more. In theory, yes, but I want to see it more because last night Calvin was wide open on his pass, but he was also wide open the time before and he dropped the football. You got to be more dynamic, more reliable there. That's uncharacteristic of Calvin Austin, so I don't expect it to continue, but it was still a moment where you said, "Oh, okay, that was bad." And then Van, outside of that one catch, was non-existent for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So again, in theory, they should, because Russ is a better deep threat passer. It all comes down to execution, and a lot of that is more on them than it is Russ because they have to get open. And Calvin is open, but Van was not last night outside of his touchdown.
The one thing I will say about him under center, specifically literally under center, I think it helps Najee Harris a little bit because he is a downhill runner and he gets those extra couple yards where he's running straight downhill. Again, not anything that is overly substantial, but I think it does aid in the running game as well.
No, Arthur Smith's offense, which is built to run the football, is an under center offense. And that Russ operates best under center. You're going to see that open up the play, everything else. It works so much better under center.
This actually goes hand in hand with your answer to this question. Steven says, can the Steelers afford both Russ and Justin next year if they want to come back?
Again, I don't know. Justin won't be expensive. You know,
Russ could do league minimum again because he's still getting paid by Denver.
Is he getting paid by Denver a year from now?
Yeah, for 2 years.
Why not? You know, why not? If you're going to make $40 million, it doesn't matter who's paying you as long as you're making $40 million. I feel like you're married to Sierra. You've been in the league 13 years. You've been a quarterback for a long time. You made like, what was this contract? It was like $245 million or something like that. I don't think that you need another like 25 mil from the Steelers. I feel like you'll be okay making your simple $40 million next year. I think that'll be just fine. So I would say there's definitely a possibility. That being said, I don't think Justin comes back. If Russ comes back, that's just how I view it. Somebody, the Tennessee Titans, the Las Vegas Raiders, the New York Jets, somebody will be looking for a quarterback and will make an offer to Justin Fields if Russ is in Pittsburgh.
Let's go over to DJ Thomas, who says, can Russ put up the same numbers against the Ravens, the Chiefs, the Bills, who are all winning teams that are not beat up?
No, definitely not. But the expectation should not be to win 37-15 against the Ravens, Chiefs, and Bills. Just like the Chiefs, Bills, and Ravens don't have the expectation to beat the Steelers 37-15. Those games should be 23-20 or 24-20 or 27-23. That's what those games are. Those games are week 1 Chiefs, Ravens, where it comes down to the wire and there's a toe that would have made it 26-24, something like that. That's what those games come down to. It will be much more low scoring, but that's the expectation, is that your defense steps up in those moments and keeps guys like Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, and Josh Allen under wraps as much as they can so that your offense has an opportunity to win.
Let's go down to the Honest Truth, who says MVP last night goes to the offensive line. Best game all year.
Yes and no. Yes.
Best second half.
Best second half, I would say. Best second. And even then, there were moments where there is one play where I believe it was a sack.
The sack. I think there was only one sack last night.
It might have been the sack. Will McDonald literally just touches Broderick Jones, and he's in the backfield. So I would say, yeah, the second half, definitely. The first half, I don't know about the best of the year. I mean, there have been the Chargers game was not, that was good offensive line play. Atlanta was also like not terrible. It was good enough. But I would say, yeah, the second half, they definitely stepped up against a good Jets defense, which you have to add to the conversation.
Let's go over to Eddie the Great, who says, morning, fellas. How's y'all crow tasting? Mine's a bit gamey. LOL. Here we go.
It's a good time. It's a good morning here on a good Victory Monday here in the city of Pittsburgh.
Let's go over to Dion, who says, do you think Joey Porter Jr. is a top 3 cornerback in the NFL right now? He has locked up so many huge names. And of note, last night, Devontae Adams, 30 yards on 3 receptions.
Yeah, I don't know if I don't know if I'm saying top 3 in the NFL where we currently stand. I'll rank him more towards the end of the year. But yeah, I mean, definitely, he had a better game than Sauce Gardner last night, and that's what I'm looking for. Is when you superstars on superstars, both sides of the football, who comes away the better at the position. Joey Porter Jr. came away clearly better than Sauce Gardner, and to be honest, Dante Jackson before he left in the early in the third quarter or late in the second half, excuse me, or the first half, excuse me, he looked good as well. So I would say the Steelers corners are good right now. I don't know about top 3, but I keep saying it. I think by the end of the year, he's in that conversation for sure.
Speaking of Dante Jackson, Timo wants to know, when does Corey Trice come back? Plus, are there any updates on Dante Jackson? Greetings from Germany. By the way, what time is it in Germany right now?
That is
afternoon.
Awesome.
It's afternoon.
That is awesome. Well, that's good. I'm glad you're getting a little afternoon. All Steelers talk. Catch these Monday episodes. Corey Trice is expected to be back after the bye week. Same with Nick Herbig. That's their time slot. Talked to Dante Jackson last night. He said he's good. He said this is something that happened against LA that he's just been dealing with. And yesterday he took a hit that he's just said the pain wouldn't go away. So he couldn't get back out there and be effective. And that's what they were looking at is, you're winning football games. James Pierre isn't playing terrible. So you're not going to put Dante Jackson back on the field and risk something worse in week 7. You'll be more cautious with those situations. I don't expect Dante to miss a game, but maybe at worst 1 game just to give him that 2 weeks in the bye week if it really is that bad against a struggling Giants team. But I don't expect this to be long term. I don't think it's anything serious. It's just something that he's banged up and has to deal with probably the most of the season as we move forward.
Let's jump over to the honest truth, who's being honest with himself or herself. No gender on the screen name here. Says, I will admit when I'm wrong. Forgot how good of a moon ball Russ has. Last week I was saying hashtag sorry, Russ, but now it's hashtag I'm sorry, Russ.
I appreciate it. Look, at this show is all about honesty, and it's all about accepting the L's. That's what we're doing here, dude. We're accepting the L's as they come in. I was very much so pro Justin Fields all last week. I'm thankful that I kept an open mind, and I'm thankful that everybody else did as well.
Let's go over to the Fields. Is for the Pickens, who says Russ makes our wide receivers no longer the weakest position.
No, that is definitely not true. I mean, our offensive line is probably the weakest position for the Pittsburgh Steelers right now because, you just without Zach Frazier, like you just don't have the guy to be like, oh, Isaac Seumalo, I guess, but you just don't like. There's George Pickens is better than anybody on the offensive line, and I mean, when they're healthy, I still think it's wide receiver. Russ is good, and a good quarterback makes average wide receivers better, but I still think it is the weakest position overall, just because Van Jefferson had 1 reception for 15 yards and a touchdown. Calvin Austin had 1 reception for 36 yards. I mean, Darnell Washington had the 2nd most receptions on the team last night. So you're going to have games where teams just take away George Pickens. Who's going to step up? I still don't know if we have that answer. I would say they are the weakest position still. But that's okay. If your weakest position puts up 2 touchdowns and 264 yards, you're okay. You're not complaining about that position. So it's a good place to be for the Steelers.
Let's jump over to Samuel, who says, Noah, is Broderick Jones a concern yet? Pressures and sacks both came from his side, or do you still believe in him?
I believe in him long term. I believe in him long term. Where we stand right now, I think it's impossible for the Pittsburgh Steelers to let Dan Moore walk in free agency. Like, in my eyes, Dan Moore is the best tackle you have on your roster right now. He is your starting left tackle next season. You sign him, you give him the money that he deserves, and you turn Troy Fautanu into your starting right tackle. And I don't know what you do with Broderick Jones. I have no idea. But if you're going to go into next season and line Broderick up on the left side, Troy on the right side, and say, good luck, whoever it is, protecting your blind side, it's bad. Dan has developed every year he's been in the NFL. You got to think that's only going to continue, and he's still very young. In my eyes, I'm keeping Dan Moore at the end of the season. I don't know how you don't. I don't know what you do with Broderick, but that is secondary right now where I stand, compared to making sure that you have a solidified left tackle, and that is Dan Moore Jr.
Let's go over to Joe, who says, do you think Najee is fighting for the contract? The last 2 weeks have been great. Some games, it's like he's running with jeans on, though.
I think Najee is fighting for a contract, but not in Pittsburgh. He's not going to come back to Pittsburgh. I stand here and nothing has changed in my view of this. Najee is not a guy that's going to get another deal in Pittsburgh. He's just, somebody's going to sign him. Somebody's going to say Najee's that dude. Let's ink him to a deal. And they're going to take him, and the Steelers are going to say, all right, let's go try to find another Najee Harris. And it's much easier to say, let's go try to find another Najee Harris than to spend a boatload of money on him, not have an answer at quarterback, not have a real second answer at wide receiver, and have questions on the offensive line. Plus, you got to re-sign guys like Dante Jackson, extend TJ Watt, Minka Fitzpatrick, so on and so, Landon Roberts, so on and so forth, and try to make all that work. Larry Ogunjobi, who had a big night last night. It's just, there's too many questions. Najee Harris is too far down the totem pole where I stand currently to say the Steelers will bring him back.
Let's go to Pittsburgh Hornets, who says, important question, over or under Danny Smith 10 pieces of gum last night? I would say at a time, over or under 10 pieces of gum.
Yeah, no, it's the over. It's the over. It's the over. Dude, I've had Danny Smith like jokingly, but probably seriously tell me he's gone through like 3 packs of gum in a football game before. Like it's not, the man just, he's got the, I don't know how, I don't chew gum. It gives me a headache from like the constant chewing. I don't know how he does it, but that jaw is invincible. Let's say that.
Let's go over to Honor, who says, I'm so glad Pat was involved last night. How did you feel about his performance?
I thought Pat played well. 2 receptions, 51 yards. You're going to look for a little bit more product out of him moving forward, but it was a good start. He ran real strong with the ball in his hands. That one play was very nice. I liked Pat's involvement. I liked everybody's involvement. That's what turned me on the most about Russ's performance last night, is that everybody got involved, that everybody was eating. And I mean, I asked Najee after the game, what's it like? How much fun is it when everybody's eating? And he said, it's a blast. He said, those are the most fun games. So it was good to see Pat get involved. He's been involved, but it was good to see him have a night with Russ.
Let's go over to Landon, who says, did Pickens play more snaps last night, or are we still doing the snap management?
Yeah, the snap management was not real. Let's be honest here. The snap management was George Pickens was in the doghouse. I don't know if he's still not in the doghouse, but I do think that they were not going to hold him off the field with a new quarterback last night. So, yeah, the snap management for now is pretty curbed, I would say.
Let's go to Zarkin, who says, we feeling better about those division games coming up. Browns are down and out. Bengals don't look great, and the Ravens are the competition. And, well, we've owned them for years. Lamar or no Lamar.
The Ravens are still the Ravens. I get that the Steelers play well against the Ravens, but the Ravens are still the Ravens, and you got to take them seriously. You can't not take them seriously. The Bengals look bad, but Joe Burrow, I still have a lot of faith in. So again, can't take them for lesser than they are. The Browns, if we are going to be very real, and that was a gruesome injury, and thoughts and prayers to Deshaun Watson. Never want to see anybody get hurt, no matter who you are. Don't want to see you get hurt in the football field. That was gruesome. The Browns might have just got better. The Browns might be a better football team now that they're going to turn to Dorian Thompson-Robinson or Jameis Winston. Like, this is the decision they should have made that they couldn't make because of the contract. Now they're forced to make it. I don't know. I don't know what the Browns are. Wait and see, because I truly believe that it might actually work in their favor that they have to change quarterbacks, and that could be dangerous for the Steelers.
Only got a couple more here. Let's start with the Honest Truth, who says, love Tomlin's interview yesterday. Quote, that's why I'm well compensated. Also, love the show. Caught it late, so going to have to watch the first half later.
Appreciate it. The first half is a lot of admitting that, Russ is the dude, and I didn't know if he was going to be the dude, but I appreciate you as always. Tomlin's interview yesterday was a good one. Actually, I watched it. I wasn't in it. I was in the locker room at the time, and then I went over for the rest of them, George, Russ, and Beanie and Najee. And I got to watch it late last night, and it was a good one. You could tell when Mike's in a good mood, and he's a good interview when he's in a good mood.
All right, let's go to Marlon, who says, has Mason McCormick done enough to be the starter next year?
Yes. Mason McCormick, like this is a good question, but Mason McCormick was the starter next year, probably 10 seconds. I mean, he was drafted and Omar Khan said, yeah, man, I mean, we have contract situations coming up on the offensive line, essentially saying James Daniels will not be here in a year. Mason McCormick will be the starter moments after he was drafted in the 4th round. So yeah, Mason is a freak. He is so just nasty in the middle of that line. If you go back and really like watch a good running play, and who cares what the running play is, just watch Mason McCormick. He's the type of dude that you could tell he hits somebody and it's like he blacks out. He's just like, I'm going to kill you. And then he just keeps going. It's the Masons. I'm excited for Mason and Zach Frazier are going to bring to the middle of that offensive line for a long time in Pittsburgh.
Closing it off today with this one from KDTV, who says, can we think of a catchphrase for Russ in Pittsburgh? He held off yesterday on NBC. They specifically asked him. They said, hey, can we get the next catchphrase? And he said, I think I'm going to hold off.
Steel number 7 is a good one. Steel number 7. What did he say when he first came? Black and gold. Let's go. Or here we go. And I think that's what he's going to stick with. We should have like a little competition or something. You know what I mean? We should do like a little, you know, well, that's what we'll do. We'll toss a little graphic in the community page. Okay. We'll have everybody send in their Russ catchphrases. Got to be good ones. Don't make fun of them. And at the end of the week, we will set up a poll of the best ones. We'll pick the best ones, pick top 4 or whatever. We will set up a poll. You guys can vote on that poll over the weekend. We will announce the winner on Monday, and we'll send the winner one of these Russell Wilson shirts. That's how we'll do this. That's how we'll create Russell Wilson's next catchphrase. That's a good one. Steel number 7s. You should toss that in there, Kid TV, because it could be a good one.
That's a wrap for today, then.
Awesome. With that said, guys, we are heading out of here. Thank you so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. Make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube, youtube.com/All Steelers Talk. Check us out anywhere you get your podcasts. And as always, find all of our work at si.com/NFL/Steelers. I hope everybody enjoys this beautiful Victory Monday, and we will see you tomorrow. Peace.